Do people expect you to... People come up and ask you medical questions and think that you're really a surgeon?
But I really don't like to do medical things. I don't really know anything about it.
If you thought Alan Alda was the perfect MASH performer, you'd be mistaken. In fact, he had an ongoing spat with a co-star that he just could not tolerate while the program was on. Many viewers had a strong preference for the MASH series for quite some time. It was entertaining, interesting, and instructive all rolled into one, till it did not. Just when was the program no longer funny? Who did Alan Alda hate the most among the crew? Were they part of the crew? Get ready, because we're about to reveal some shocking information about the program, including answers to your burning questions and some secret elements you might not have known previously. In Season 2 of MASH, there was tension between Alan Alda and Jackie Cooper, albeit why exactly that was is anybody's guess. According to many haters, their divergent opinions on how things ought to be done were the main reason they couldn't get along. Why do these people think Alan Alda had the greatest problems with Jackie Cooper of all the showmates? Throughout the whole season, Jackie seldom appeared on screen. Alan Alda, who played Hawkeye Pierce, said that Jackie Cooper, a former child star turned episode director, was too structured and restricted the actor's creativity. He was both frustrated and annoyed that Jackie didn't give the show her all as he wanted it to be great. On the other hand, Alan Alda was an uncooperative co-worker according to Jackie Cooper. Alan, in his view, was the sort of person who preferred to accomplish things independently of others' opinions. Alan, in Jackie's view, was ineffective as director because he tried to oversee the scenes too closely. Everyone seems to agree that different viewpoints on how to run the event led to a power struggle. Alan and Jackie's disagreements surfaced in Season 2 of MASH due to their divergent opinions. Is the only possible explanation for Alan's dislike of Jackie their differing opinions? But did it go beyond that? Why don't we familiarize ourselves with the program first? Then we can get right in. Based on a novel, MASH went on to become a popular TV series. It ran on television from 1972 to 1983. The show follows the exploits of troops working in a mobile army surgical hospital during the Korean War, which is where the term comes from. Because it managed to be both humorous and serious, the show was well liked by many. The MASH heroes were a group of doctors and nurses who worked together to save the lives of wounded service members. Their positive attitude and ability to make the best of any situation allowed them to persevere despite everything that they faced. The show was well known for both its comedic and serious content, which often dealt with heavy themes such as war, mortality, and the human cost of conflict. Many viewers enjoyed Alan Alda's performance as Hawkeye Pierce. This exceptionally gifted surgeon always had a joke ready, regardless of the gravity of the situation. The role of Hawkeye's sidekick and mischievous collaborator, Trapper John McIntyre, played by Wayne Rogers, was one that fans loved. Notable members of the show's supporting cast were Loretta Swit, who played head nurse Margaret Houlihan, and Jamie Farr, who played cross-dressing Corporal Maxwell Klinger. The show's various characters exhibited a broad spectrum of quirks and personality types. One thing that makes this program stand out is how well it manages to include both tragic and funny parts. Emotions as extreme as laughter and tears might be triggered by the same incident. The show's courage to tackle taboo subjects and explore deep emotions made it meaningful to many. Countless individuals were enthralled and inspired by MASH, an innovative television series. It has remained one of the most beloved series ever because of its wisdom, compassion, and enduring message of endurance in the face of tragedy. Were you aware of this fact about the cast? Hawkeye was initially supposed to be played by McLean Stevenson, who would go on to co-star with Henry Blake. Thus, he aspired to portray the role of Alan Alda's sharp and comical doctor, Hawkeye Pierce. Just imagine if Stevenson hadn't played Henry Blake and Hawkeye instead. It's a fascinating idea to consider. If things had gone differently, how might the characters' relationships have developed? Compared to Alan, would Stevenson have been a better choice to play the role? Like Stevenson did with Hawkeye, many actors have dream roles or ones they believe they might excel in. Actors may have a preference for certain types of roles or even fantasize about performing certain parts. A handful of the actors had actual fighting experience before joining the troupe. Two examples of this are the military families of Jamie Farr and Alan Alda. Jamie Farr gained famous during his time in the U.S. Army for his portrayal of Corporal Maxwell Klinger. He spent 2 years in the military following the end of the Korean War, serving in both Japan and Korea. Farr likely leaned on the priceless insights he acquired from his actual military service on the lives of soldiers while portraying his character on the show. Like Hawkeye Pierce, Captain Benjamin Franklin, Alan Alda served in the military before starring on MASH. Alan joined the Army Reserve after finishing his degree at Fordham University in New York. Although his time in the military was mostly unknown, it undoubtedly impacted his understanding of military values and culture. Their MASH performances really shine because Farr and Allen were both veterans. Their ability to portray individuals in a battle would have been increased if they had a real grasp of military life. The actress herself acknowledges that things were tense between her and Allen. Can you guess who it may be? Fans are divided on whether Allen's nemesis on the program was Jackie or Mike Farrell. Why? Thinking about how viciously competitive people are on the show. The animosity between Alan Alda and Mike Farrell was even referenced in his published memoirs, Never Have Your Dog Stuffed and Other Things I've Learned. Given that Alan and Mike were friends, it is not true that they were adversaries. Rather, their rivalry was friendly. Things like learning to balance on one's hands were areas where they competed peacefully. Because of the healthy rivalry between them, they enjoyed working together very much. Alan admitted in his book that the judo he learned while in the Army likely improved his physical strength and capacity to engage in such activities. It is our duty to inform you that their physical interactions were not necessarily intended to be sexually suggestive. Every time Alan was instructed to sit down, Farrell would playfully try to trip him from behind and knock him down, as Alan saw. There were disagreements between Farrell and Alan as well. One scenario where this may be seen is when BJ. The way Honeycutt's character was behaving was unacceptable to Farrell. They likely differed because they were so invested in their roles and characters. Hollywood actors often decline roles that may have significantly boosted their careers or improved their lives, so you can forget about Alan and Mike. Because comedian Robert Klein declined the role of Trapper John on the show, this happened. Klein turned down the part that might have propelled her to superstardom on a global scale. Instead, he pursued a career in comedy, where he found some success and has already amassed almost 100 credits. It may have appeared like a missed chance when Klein turned down the position, but he ended up carving out a special niche for himself in Hollywood as a result. Another interesting thing about MASH's casting is Wayne Rogers, who plays Trapper John McIntyre. Rogers was never compelled by law to perform for MASH, unlike most performers. This meant that he was free to leave the show whenever he pleased without being obligated to anything. The production of the performance was filled with surprises because Rogers was free to come and go as he pleased. Among the show's most beloved characters is Klinger, played by Jamie Farr. The general public was led to believe otherwise, although Klinger was only scheduled to appear once during the entire series. Furthermore, the character was once assumed to be gay. The character's deep appeal with viewers, however, led producers to choose Klinger as a recurring character. His unique attitude and odd conduct made him a beloved and remembered figure, even if it wasn't the initial goal for Klinger's narrative. Strangely, as MASH progressed, the level of laughter began to decline. To prove that the program could be both serious and funny, the producers first insisted on not utilizing a laugh track. Though they did allow the filmmakers to capture some shots, such as those in the operating room, without laughing, CBS was still not on board with the idea. As the episode progressed, the show's laughter became less audible and less loud. While audible, the laughing was noticeably quieter and less frequent than previously. That the show was getting serious while still being funny was evident in this change. The pilot episode of MASH first aired on September 17, 1972. Screenplay credits go to Gene Reynolds, who also won an award for directing, and Larry Gilbert. Both the writing and directing categories of the Emmys were considered for the episode. Larry Gilbert's 3-day writing schedule was incredibly rapid, especially when considering the episode's eventual success. The pilot episode received an incredible amount of accolades and awards. The fact that its impact on viewers and personnel was substantial despite its hurried production is proof of it. I was totally unprepared for this next piece of information. While filming was underway, the cast was kept in the dark about some things. In that particular episode, for example, the fact that Henry Blake's character was going to perish was known only to Al and Alda before to filming. The other performers didn't know this until it was time to film the scene. Their revelation likely shocked them because of the character's pivotal position in the show. Notable actors and actresses made cameo appearances on the show as well. Notable guests on the show included Leslie Nielsen, Ron Howard, and Patrick Swayze. The addition of these famous faces couldn't have been a disappointment to anybody concerned, and the show's ratings went up as a result. Another surprising factor was the duration of the show. The show ran for 11 years, from 1972 to 1983, which is far longer than the 3-year Korean War. That shows how captivated the crowd was, even if it's longer than the fight itself. In all, there were 256 episodes, which is more than enough to keep viewers interested for a long time. Al and Alda helped out behind the scenes as well, playing a number of different parts. In addition to directing 31 episodes, he co-wrote 13 of them. His extraordinary skills as a director, actor, and writer are on full display here. Impressively, he manages to provide outstanding performances in all of these roles while being on camera. Bear in mind the one from Radar? An important component of the show revolved around a teddy bear that belonged to a character named Radar. The story left many viewers curious about what happened to the bear. After being expected to disappear for 30 years, something out of the usual happened. Actor Gary Berghoff, who played Radar, bought the bear after finding it at an auction. Being a proud owner of a prop from the musical in which he had a role must have been an unforgettable experience. After the show ended, another interesting thing happened. They found the time capsule. In a final episode, the group buried a time capsule as a memento of their time together. They concealed it on the set of the show. The time capsule was discovered by a construction worker many months after shooting had concluded. Everyone was probably caught unawares by the long-awaited finding of the time capsule. For some reason, this has brought back warm memories of the days spent making MASH, as if some long-lost relic from the show's history had been discovered. There was a significant role for Loretta Swit in the show. She was seen in almost every episode as Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan. Out of 256 episodes, she was only absent for 11. Wow, there are so many episodes. For all 11 seasons, she was not only a regular cast member but also made an appearance in practically every episode. What a long time. Only 4 performers, including Swit, stayed for the whole show. She must have loved MASH since she remained for so long. The supporting cast was as important, notwithstanding Swit's great performance as Major Houlihan. Despite the fact that not all of them were major players, they were all fascinating. For example, in one episode from 1977, the characters were given names that were inspired by the California Angels baseball team. That is just astounding. The fact that every member of the MASH ensemble was carefully picked is obvious. One television character's name is based on the writer's real-life ex-girlfriend. Though some have speculated that Patty Haven may be it, no one has confirmed the identity. But here's the rub. There's evidence to suggest that audience reaction to that specific statistic was mixed. Putting that aside, as the seasons went on, the actors became more forthright about the show's ideas and plots. They probably have strong opinions on what their fictional characters should do and where they should end up. Despite their best efforts, the creative team opted to ignore their feedback and play hardball instead. The actors had to shoot scenes in cumbersome winter gear even though it was quite hot. How about a parka and gloves when the temperature outside is 90 degrees? Everyone on stage was in over their heads. But hey, that's acting. Walter Radar O'Reilly was the subject of one of the spin-offs that debuted following the main series' conclusion. In this spin-off, Radar has a difficult time returning home after the fight. After tragedy strikes, he decides to pursue a career in investigative work. Only one episode of this spin-off series was broadcast. Klinger, a fictional character on MASH, had some luck on his side. Despite his immense popularity, the producers ultimately decided to keep him on for more than just a one-time cameo. Hence, Klinger became an established character rather than a one-off performance. Fan interest in some MASH characters continued after the original series ended, as seen by these spin-offs. Their ability to resume normal life following the conflict is remarkable. Did you find it interesting how the actors connect with the family they portray? The actor who played B.J. Honeycutt named the daughter of her character after her own daughter, Erin, as a way to pay tribute to her. This is, in a sense, a funeral for his biological family. Naming a character after a loved one is a heartfelt way to respect their memory, even if it's only in a fictional environment. Something else worth noting is that Colonel Potter's desk has a picture of his wife, Mildred. Will you be able to handle this? This is no ordinary snapshot. It is a portrait of Harry Morgan's real wife. On set, it seemed like he was carrying a little piece of his own life. This adds a touch of genuineness and empathy to Colonel Potter's character on the show. Even in the midst of the fighting, he seemed to never really be far from home. Why don't we take a look at some more show insights now? Mrs. Jackie Cooper's memoirs was titled, "You May Not Shoot My Dog." It had him talking about his experience working with Alan Alda on MASH. Jackie believed Alan was attempting to impose his liberal beliefs on him anytime he tried to incorporate them into the scripts. Jackie admonished Alan to stay out of politics and focus on his job. Even though Jackie was vehemently against it, Alan believed he was attempting to force his opinions on the show. In the first 2 seasons, Jackie oversaw the production of individual episodes. Alan never expressed it, but he could feel Alan's animosity toward him. They seldom spoke to one another even after Jackie's time on the show ended. There was no true most recent episode. After then, shooting for an episode called As Time Goes By began. Even after MASH ended, Harry Morgan remained a close friend of Loretta Swit. The reason McLean Stevenson left was Alan Alda. After first rehearsing with McLean and Rogers, Alan shot to fame. The most renowned episode was the last one, which most Americans watched. In the pilot, Aaron Allen and Donald Sutherland wore similar hats. Upon airing in the UK, the laugh track was omitted. Never once did Hawkeye brandish a gun, and Klinger wore a wedding gown no less than 3 times. The last episode was the only one in which the title Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen was shown. A figure that appears in the credits as playing himself appears in the episode Tuttle, although he isn't actually a cast member. The presence of electrical lines in certain outside images and the seeming excessive amount of Purple Hearts on some individuals violate military rules. The show ran for 11 seasons before its actors chose to end it. Those closing credits marked the end of the renowned program. This is it right now. Were any of these unfamiliar to you before? Which one caught you by surprise the most? Would you happen to have a favorite episode of the show? Kindly let us know in the designated area. Until next time, we highly recommend viewing the historic spectacle again.